stars. The evening is upon us. Time for theater and another chapter of The Fall of the House of the Azure Pimpernel. Chapter 4. A Night of Debauchery and Disarray. Queen Consort Appaloosa tapped her crimson-painted nails impatiently against the mahogany table. White Satin, his dark eyes gleaming in the dimly lit parlor, swirled the amber liquid in his glass, amusement playing on his lips. "Patience, my dear queen," he drawled, his voice a smooth purr. "Chaos unfolds at its own pace. One wrong move, and the entire plan crumbles." Appaloosa bristled. "It's been weeks, White Satin. King Porkchop and his sniveling heir, Puny Heart, should be begging for mercy by now. Groveling at the foot of the Ash Throne, which, by the way, should rightfully be occupied by my own son, Clyde Bean." She glared at the warlock, her emerald eyes flashing with barely concealed fury. The throne, crafted from the bones of conquered Atlantean enemies or captives, was a constant reminder of the brutal past Appaloosa craved to restore. How much more could be stolen? For herself, her family, her people, no matter what it cost, those others, those people who just happened to live in the lands that they would conquer, and take all their treasures and their land and their wealth. There could never be enough. Appaloosa, at her core, always wanted more. White Satin, ever the master manipulator, simply chuckled. "Clyde Bean," he mused, tilting his head ever so slightly. "An interesting proposition, but the public wouldn't stomach such a drastic shift. He's not part of the bloodline. Our aim is to discredit Porkchop, not replace him with an unknown entity. Then unleash the final act! That oafish brother of his, Uncle Thaddeus. Surely he can be swayed to cooperate. Think of the scandal, the headlines." Appaloosa's voice rose with anticipation. A slow smile spread across White Satin's face. "Ah, Thaddeus. A man perpetually drowning his sorrows in the bottom of a glass. He'll be the perfect pawn." Later that night, White Satin found himself prowling the dingy underbelly of the Atlantean train station. His silver gaze scanned the crowd, searching for his next victims. 3 figures huddled together beneath a flickering fluorescent light instantly caught his eye. Young runaways, their faces etched with desperation and a hunger for food and perhaps something more. White Satin, the charismatic club DJ, the promoter of all things hedonistic, easily charmed the teenagers with promises of burgers, shelter, and a chance at fame through his infamous nightclub, the Choir Loft, not unlike the Red Zone of old, if you're familiar with P. Diddy. Little did they know, the Choir Loft wasn't just a party hotspot. It was a den of manipulation where the games played were more sinister than any televised dance competition. With their bellies full of surprisingly decent vegan burgers, White Satin wasn't a monster, not entirely. The runaways found themselves whisked away in a sleek, white Rolls-Royce. Their destination? The imposing Doom Palace. Inside the king's private parlor, Queen Appaloosa and Uncle Thaddeus waited with an air of predatory anticipation. White Satin entered with a flourish, the runaways trailing behind him, bewildered but strangely compliant. A sickly sweet scent hung in the air, White Satin's handiwork, a subtle enchantment to lower inhibitions. "My dear Porkchop," Appaloosa purred, her voice dripping with honeyed deceit. "A surprise for your entertainment. a little taste of youth. King Porkchop, a portly man with a penchant for naps and pineapple and ham pizza, blinked owlishly at the newcomers. Before he could utter a single word of protest, a pulsating beat filled the room, courtesy of a hidden speaker system activated by White Satin. Energy drinks replaced the usual royal tea, and soon a chaotic dance party erupted. Appaloosa, with surprising agility for her age, started grinding against her bewildered husband. The teenagers, fueled by the music and a strange sense of boldness, joined in, their laughter echoing off the ancient stone walls. Whether it was the brush with royalty or celebrity or the possibility of a come-up, they engaged enthusiastically in the impromptu dance party. Unnoticed, tiny lipstick cameras hidden within the room's intricate carvings began recording the scene. White Satin, his dark eyes gleaming with perverse delight, pressed the record button. This was the compromat they needed. The king of Atlantis, caught in a compromising situation with, well, no one was quite sure how young or old they were. Just as Appaloosa reached for a strategically placed button on her gown, the doors burst open with a crash. Prince Silverchair, his face contorted in a mixture of anger and disbelief, stormed into the room. "Stop!" he roared, his voice cutting through the pulsating music. "Is anybody going to tell me what in the seven seas is going on here?" The music abruptly ceased, leaving behind an awkward silence. The runaways cowered behind White Satin, who straightened his cravat with an unnerving, nonchalant air. Appaloosa, her face flushed with fury and frustration, glared daggers at her stepson. King Porkchop, mid-chew on a slice of pineapple pizza, stared at his son Silverchair with the expression of a man caught stealing cookies from a cookie jar. The carefully orchestrated night of debauchery had taken an unexpected turn, and with Prince Silverchair's arrival, the true game of Atlantis had just begun to unfold.